Welcome to Paths to Wellness with Shifra Enright and Fergal McLaughlin. Welcome back to session 4 of Paths to Wellness. And first of all today I'd just like to draw your attention to our agenda and what we're going to cover in today's session. So our first activity will be to feedback how we got on with our action plans. Then we're going to look at better breathing with Shifra. Then I'll be back to talk about healthy eating. After healthy eating, we normally take a break in the group, so we just probably say to yourselves at home to pause it at that point, maybe just stand up, walk around a little while, maybe have a cup of tea, something like that. Just take a little break for about 15 minutes, then come on back to us. And after the break, then we look at communication skills, problem solving. We'll have another chance to make an action plan, and then we'll just look at what we're doing at the end. So the first activity is feedback, so around our action plans. So if we remember what an action plan is, we have our chart here. So it's something that you want to do or decide to do. It's something that's achievable, and achievable in the sense of the restrictions that are on us now during this COVID-19 situation. So what are you able to do currently? That it's action specific, so it's a particular action that you're doing. So a lot of people we know in the past maybe would like to lose weight or something like that, and that's not action specific. Whereas if I decided to replace my snacks with fruit, that would be action specific, maybe helping to the goal of losing weight. And then it answers these questions of, well, what did you do, how much of it did you do, when did you do it, and how often. And we set a confidence level on that of 7 or more. So it's that, I think if it's over 7, we've more chance of it being achievable or doable. So I'll start with myself, and from my last action plan was to do a body scan, which was a relaxation exercise, and it was for 10 minutes before bed from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, the working nights. And I managed to accomplish that, so I was really pleased with that, and I slept well, so I was delighted with that. So what I'd like you to do at home, maybe have a pen and paper there beside yourself, and write down what your action plan was. And then think about, did you accomplish it? Was it partially accomplished? Did you have to change the plan because something else came up and you had to change it? If you did, that would be good self-care. So think about that for a moment, write it down, and then we will bring in Shifra and ask how.
So my action plan from our last week was I found a little step counter in the cupboard, and I said I wanted to get a little bit more active. So I had planned to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday 30 minutes of walking where I was counting my steps. And it started really well, but then I came across a bit of a problem. So I think this might be a good opportunity to introduce one of our other tools, which is problem solving. And problem solving involves identifying the problem, maybe listing some ideas, selecting one, and then going with it. So my issue was, so I started day 1, great, 30 minutes, counted, steps, lovely. Day 2, same. Day 3, I just felt really tired. And I didn't quite want to give up, but I felt tired and I needed to rest. So I decided to do a problem solve. And my ideas were I could decide just to discontinue my action plan for the week, but I wanted to try something else. So the other option was to maybe just do 15 minutes walking. But what I decided to do eventually was instead, so I took the third night off, and then on night 4 and night 5, I walked and counted steps for 15 minutes on each of the nights. Yeah, so I amended my action plan, and I still felt reasonably good about that and about minding myself on the day that I felt very tired. So yeah, so using problem solving, it just helped me to work through.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So that was great use of the problem solve,
Yeah.
and you were able to change your plan but still accomplish your
Yeah.
action plan over the week. So that was good self-care too on the night that you were tired, that you changed it around. Brilliant. Great stuff. So we would remind you that both problem solving and action planning are part of the self-management toolbox, and they're really important tools that help us break the symptom cycle at different points as we move around it. Great. Okay, so thank you. So what we move on to now is better breathing, which is activity 2 with Shifra. Thanks.
Okay, so welcome back. So we're going to start again with our next item on the agenda, which is to look at better breathing. So most of us can benefit from better or more efficient breathing, regardless of whether we have a long-term health condition or not. And we can see from our symptom cycle here that shortness of breath is indeed one of the symptoms in our symptom cycle. So shortness of breath is a common symptom that can result from many things, such as a heart condition, a lung condition. It can result from anxiety, poor fitness and obesity. It can result from stress, or it can even be from desirable reasons, such as exercise. We can get some shortness of breath when we exercise. And shortness of breath can be we're just going to look at some reasons for shortness of breath. So we have our chart here at number 15, and we have some reasons for shortness of breath. So the first one there is damage to lungs. So that might be a person might have COPD or a chronic breathing difficulty. We might have a weakened heart, which means that our heart can't pump oxygen into the blood as well or as efficiently as it might have done. We might have increased demands, it might be exercise, would be something like that. We might have narrowed breathing passages, would be the case if somebody has asthma. We could have low numbers of red blood cells, which we have here again, which can cause anemia. And we could maybe be at high altitude, not likely for us, but it could be that we might be at high altitude where there would be less oxygen. Another factor could be excess body weight, where the lungs don't have as much room, and the heart then has to work a little bit harder. So these are all reasons why we might have shortness of breath. And then the final ones that we look at here are, as we said earlier, anxiety, when the heart actually beats faster, and smoking or even passive smoking, which can cause some shortness of breath for us. So,
thank you, Shifra. So I'm just going to take you through now a free think, and the question we're going to take you through is, what are some things you can do to manage or avoid shortness of breath? So what are some things you can do to manage or avoid shortness of breath? So have a think of that at home there for a little while. If you've got your pen or paper, you could just jot down a couple of answers, see what you think, or just think about them yourselves. Okay, so we have some answers here that we would have got from previous groups, so just make a note of those. So some ideas that people thought of were to treat the underlying causes, try some deep breathing exercises, to stop smoking, to avoid unhealthy environments, there's a lot of dust and things like that, try for as much healthy eating as possible, can help. Avoid cold air, has a big effect on the lungs. To use your inhalers properly, if you use inhalers. To do some muscle exercises for your chest if it's safe to do so, strengthen it. And then if we're going to do some exercises, to make sure that it's a graded exercise program. So just take it in small steps first and building up. Then other ideas are to get some fresh air, to have good posture, and to avoid dusty environments. So there are just some ideas, and you probably have a couple there at home yourselves as well. So even if we don't normally have breathing problems, there are techniques we can all learn that help us breathe better. Most of us are short of breath at some time, whether it's from a long-term condition, an acute condition like a bad cold, or just from physical activity. These techniques also help when trying to relieve stress and relax tense muscles. Better breathing energizes both the mind and the body. So we'll have a look at these. So the first and easiest technique for all of us to use is pursed lip breathing, which helps us to empty our lungs of used air by exhaling slowly and completely through the mouth. So, if you've got a whistle or that kind of an idea, kind of blowing it out. Pursed lips. Then there's diaphragmatic or belly breathing, and the name comes from the diaphragm, which is the muscle below the chest that's used for deep breathing. We sometimes call this belly breathing because when it's done correctly, your belly moves. We'll demonstrate that now in a moment. Diaphragmatic breathing is particularly helpful when we're feeling stressed or when lung condition restricts our lung capacity. So myself and Shifa are now going to demonstrate a combination of these two types of breathing, and I'll just hand you back to Shifa now, who will guide you through the breathing techniques.
Okay, so Fergal and I are just going to go through that exercise in terms of diaphragmatic or belly breathing. So if you would like to join in with us now, it'll just be a few minutes, and you might find it a really nice way to practice relaxing your breathing. So here's the guidance on it. So find a comfortable position. You can either do this standing or sitting, but it also can be done lying down. So it's a really nice time to try this when you're actually in bed or lying down on a couch, where you can really feel your belly moving. It can be very helpful. So be sure to relax your shoulders there, just kind of loosen them out a little bit. And then place one hand on your abdomen. So that's basically just above your belly button, but below your breastbone. And then you can place your other hand on your chest, just about here. So breathe in through your nose. And if you can't breathe in through your nose, then breathe through your mouth. That's absolutely fine. And as you breathe in, you should feel your abdomen just rising a little bit. At the same time, you should feel only a very little amount of movement in your upper chest area, because we want most of the activity to be down here. And this also means that we're filling our lungs with oxygen if we feel that little rise down here. So next, purse your lips gently, as if you were going to whistle, like this. And now breathe out slowly through pursed lips, while at the same time you gently contract your abdominal muscles. So let the air flow out slowly and don't force it out, just be really gentle. It should take you twice as long to exhale doing this exercise as it would for you to inhale. But if you feel lightheaded, you're breathing out too fast, so it's slow exhaling is what we're looking for. So we're both just going to do that for a moment. Great. So hopefully you found that a little bit relaxing, and if you could continue it afterwards, or when you're getting ready for bed, lying down and doing that really nice exercise, that pursed lip breathing. So if, for example, someone wants to walk for exercise, it could walk for 1 minute and rest, walk for another minute and rest, and so on. And in this way, the person will be more active during the day rather than exercising more intensely once and weaning him or herself off for the rest of the day. So just to go through that again. So often participants with breathing problems try to hurry through activities in order to finish before they run out of breath. And you can understand why they might do that. But slow down and use moderation. That's actually going to be more effective. So if, for example, someone who wants to walk for exercise could walk for 1 minute and then rest, walk for another minute and then rest, and so on. And in that way, the person will be more active during the day rather than exercising more intensely once and being quite tired because of that, and then feeling out of condition for the rest of the day. So these breathing techniques are used both in preparation for and after several of the exercises that we'll be talking about throughout the rest of this program. And they can also be helpful to practice during physical activities and exercise. So just once again to remind you that breathing techniques, which are here, are one of our self-management tools from our toolbox. Okay, great.
Okay, so we're going to talk about activity 3 today, healthy eating. And eating is very important, obviously, for all of us, but it also has a very different meaning for everyone. What, how, and why we eat are very personal. And not only that, we've developed these habits over years. We're used to eating what we like, when we like. So healthy eating is one of our tools in our self-management toolbox here. But changing our eating habits isn't easy. And I've already tried before, it's hard. But before we change, we need to know what part of our eating habits we would like to change. So if you remember at the end of our last session, we asked you just to note down, was there any difference in your eating pattern, say on a weekday or a weekend? Now in the current situation, all those days kind of merge into one, it's hard to know the difference between them. But did you notice anything about your eating pattern at all? Just think about it there for a moment. I know that I learned that on work days, so Monday to Friday, I'm inclined in a little bit of a rush at the start to maybe miss my breakfast a couple of mornings. So I noticed that. I wouldn't miss it at the weekend, but I can do sometimes during the working week. Think about it at home yourself. What have you noticed about your own eating pattern at all? And just note it down maybe on the page there, just even think about it for a moment. And Mike, there's Shifra. How did you get
So
on?
a little bit like yourself, what I noticed was usually on working days that I actually don't break enough early for
Right.
lunch. So I could have breakfast early and then kind of work through the day and maybe not break till between 2 and 3, which is
Right.
probably too long to leave it,
Yeah.
and then you're maybe eating too much because you're extra hungry.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So you can probably see yourself at home. You've probably learned something if you've done that around your eating. Certainly, we've learned a little bit here around it. So it's good to really notice what what we're eating at the moment, especially if we're hoping to change anything like that. So the very best way to know what changes you want to make is to really know what you're eating now. And building on this kind of an idea of looking at your pattern, a food diary is an excellent way of finding this out. And you might find it helpful to repeat this exercise once a month or so, kind of keep a track as you move along. If you've learned something that makes you want to change your eating, you could easily try and make that part of your action plan for this week. Okay. So now we're going to move on to a free think. And the question that we're going to ask in this free think is, what are some benefits of healthy eating? So what are some benefits of healthy eating? So normally in the group at this moment, everybody will be telling us their answers. So what I'd like you to do at home is to, on your pen and paper, write down what you think are some of the benefits of healthy eating. What are the good things about it? What works well? So just have a go with that. Okay. So what we'll do, we have some answers here from previous members who attended our group. And, what are some benefits of healthy eating? Well, what we've come up with is, it gives you more energy. It can help manage cholesterol. It's helpful with weight management. You feel healthier in yourself. Live longer. It makes you happy. Absolutely better. And planning meals can distract from difficult emotions. Sometimes when we feel down or that, we don't feel like kind of eating or something like that, but if we've planned our meals, it can help us at those times, for sure. Have we got any other ones there?
There's 1 or 2 other ones
Yeah.
that we did identify as well, if I can write them here.
Thank you.
So help control blood sugar,
Help control blood sugar.
which is a very important one.
Absolutely, yeah, for
And
sure.
then another one that's been suggested is to help to prevent
Yeah.
side effects
So help prevent side effects
from medication.
From medication, right? Okay. So that's a really important one. So it's really important to know for eating well.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're on a lot of medication, it's really good for eating well. That helps to make the medication kind of less side effects from it, for sure. Okay, great. So as you can see, healthy eating doesn't mean you have to give up the foods you like or that you have to buy special foods. Rather, it means learning to make healthier food choices. So therefore, we're not going to talk about diets today, but we're going to discuss the guidelines that help us begin to make small and gradual changes in the way we eat. And this is the way to change habits. So here are some guidelines. Healthy eating means eating a variety of foods, eating and watching our meals and snacks regularly, watching our portion size, and actually the reason why many of us gain weight is not so much what we eat, but how much we eat. And often our portion sizes are much bigger than we realise. And then eating breakfast. So this kick-starts our body for the day and helps us eat less during the day. So what you eat is not important as long as it is healthy. So we're just going to talk about this a little bit more. Eating a variety of foods is not difficult, and to help us we're going to use the Eat Well plate here that Shiva's pointing to, which probably a lot of you have seen before. The Eat Well plate is a pictorial summary of the main food groups and their recommended proportions for a healthy diet. And it's used by the Department of Health for dietary advice, and it helps you to get a balance right. It shows you how much of what you eat should come from each food group. Now, anyone with special dietary requirements or medical needs might want to check with their dietitian whether the Eat Well plate applies to them, and that includes people trying to gain weight. There's a slightly different version of the plate for use by people with diabetes, so do seek advice if necessary. Okay, so it's divided into 5 sections, and the 2 largest sections are for 1, fruit and vegetables, and this is the one that you would want to aim for at least 5 portions of a variety of fruit and vegetables a day. And remember, potatoes aren't included in this category. The second category, that's where you would find potatoes, bread and rice and pasta and other starchy foods. So try and choose whole grain varieties where you can. About 1/5 of the plate area is for milk and dairy products and or calcium fortified soy milk. The next smaller section is for meat, fish, eggs and other non-dairy sources of protein such as beans and pulses. And the smallest section is for foods or drink high in fat and or sugar. So for more information, please see the Eat Well plate and supporting information in your course book. So pages 181 and 303 are very useful guides there. So maybe at home there, just for a moment, think about how can you get a bit of different variety into your meals coming up. Sometimes we get stuck in the same sort of pattern, so is there any way of kind of changing that up a little bit? If you are going to watch your portion size, we have to know exactly what we mean by a portion. And of course that's different for every food. But we will give you a couple of examples here. Please note that the only exact portion size recommended by the Department of Health is 5 fruits and vegetables a day. There is some other advice around maybe 8 a day and that kind of thing, but if we can get 5 a day, that would be great. And you can definitely use the Eat Well plate to guide you how much of the other food portions you should have. So, for example, the portion size for bread is 1 slice. For a bread roll, it will be half the roll, or 2 small pancakes, about 4 inches across. A portion of vegetables and fruit is around 80 grams, or 1 apple, or a similar size fruit. 3 heaped tablespoons of vegetables, or 150 ml glass of fruit juice. So for most vegetables, a serving size for cooked vegetables is roughly half of the serving size for uncooked vegetables. So that's what kind of when they mean a portion, you hear that, a portion or something. It's recommended to get the balance right every day, but you don't need to do it every meal. So that's important. You might find it easier to get the balance right over a longer period, say a week. Kind of plan out what you're going to eat over the week, and can you get this kind of an idea of an Eat Well guide or plate in there. Guidelines for portion or serving size are there to help you plan your meal. You don't have to eat a whole portion of something with your meal. So you could eat less than a portion or more than a portion as long as the overall balance is maintained. So it might be less cabbage and more mushrooms, less bread, more pasta. So there's a lot of dietary information available, and we have some of it already that we would look at during the course at this point. So what we're going to do is to want you to practice your Eat Well plate over the next week, or make it part of your action plan. Now, the other thing we would like you to practice is to start using the dietary advice given on food labels which appear on packaged foods, usually processed foods, so something like a lasagna or a pizza from a supermarket. And try comparing similar products and make healthier choices, choosing ones with less fat, saturated fat, sugars and salt. Sometimes there can be a big difference in similar products. And we would have a sample here of a label that you would have that's taken from something like a lasagna in a supermarket. And the important thing here is you would look at, say, something like the serving per pack is for 2. So if you bought that lasagna in a supermarket, you have to see how many people is it for, how many, so this is for 2. And it has a lot more information on the back of it. So this is what you normally find on the back of some packages, around how many calories there are, the fat content in grams, the cholesterol level, sodium or salt level, potassium, other carbohydrates along there. So you want to, that would be really important to look at some information like that. There's a lot of information on a label like that. So someone with high blood pressure or hypertension may be advised to look for foods that are low in the salt. This one here, so it's pretty high here. Or you may be watching your cholesterol, or someone with diabetes would have to be very careful around their sugar intake. So many foods are labelled with nutritional information to help you make decisions about your daily intake compared to the amount recommended. These are usually found in a prominent position on the front of the pack and can be easier to read than dietary information. Some labels use traffic light colour coding so that you can tell at a glance. If they're high, they'll be in red, medium will be amber or orange, and low is green in fat, sugars and salt. So for a healthier choice, try to pick up products with more greens and ambers. So what we might just look at here is an example, if we can bring it in there, of a pizza box. So this is a box very standard that you might see in the supermarket for a pizza. And what you want to look at here are, there are the traffic lights came down at the bottom, but interestingly enough, they're all greyed out, so you wouldn't know whether they were high or low or not. But if you look at that box, one of the interesting facts about it is that is for 4 people. Not 1 person or 2, it's actually for 4.
And so the fat level at saturates is 25% per quarter.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's, for serving, 25%.
Per quarter. Very interesting, very interesting. Shall we something like the pizza box? And then another one that you might see in a supermarket would be, say, these salmon fillets here. So these they're for 2, so a fillet each, I guess. And you can see that the traffic lights are working there. So it'll be really important to look at that. And Shifa, could you just let us know?
Yeah, so we've got a fat level of 18%, sugars of 0%, and salt is 1% in this particular package.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And to help you when you're going around your shopping, and we will send some of these out in the post to you along as we send out some stuff to you, is our food shopping card, and you can see it there. And this is a very clear example of the proportion and grams that would show you what's high, medium or low in the different areas. So that's a very useful card, and if you log on to somewhere like www.irishheart.ie, you'll see a lot more information around all this. So next time we'll be looking at making healthy choices. So what we'd ask you to do is look at your food labels at home there on any of your products. Even maybe have 1 or 2 of them along for the next session when we look at them again in a little bit more details. And we'll have a look at what we learn. So it's really good to get into practice about reading these labels. Do have a look at the back of it, which will look kind of like this with a lot of information on it. But the traffic lights are a really nice, clear example of when things are high or low. So you're aiming for the greens and the oranges mainly, red ones. When you see that on the traffic lights, stop, essentially.
Can I add one thing?
You
Fran?
can, of course.
I think with this plate, I
Yes.
think it's really helpful to think of this as being about 30%, this being about 30%,
Mhm.
this being about 20%,
Yeah,
this 15%,
Sure.
and this little guy here 5%.
right.
So it might just make it easier to see the overall composition of the eating well plate.
Lovely.
Great.
Thank you very much. Okay, so remember, healthy eating is a tool from our toolbox that can be used to help break the symptom cycle. So for healthy eating, you can definitely have the things like fatigue and even our emotions, even some pain. So it can be really beneficial in a lot of ways. What we'd normally do in our group now is take a break at this point for around 20 minutes. So what we'd ask you to do at home maybe is just pause the session now. Maybe stand up, have a walk around, maybe make yourself a cup of tea, something like that, a little bit of fresh air, anything like that, and then rejoin us again in about 15 minutes. Okay, thank you. So
We're now at activity 4 for today. Hope you had a nice little break there and did some good self-care, minding yourselves. And we're going to look at a topic which is always one that generates a lot of interest when we present it. It's about communication skills, and clearly during COVID-19 maybe all of us are spending a lot more time indoors, maybe a lot more time with family members, and that can cause difficulties for our communication. So this may be particularly relevant to you just now. We probably all agree that good communication is important in all kinds of relationships. It is especially needed when we are managing a long-term health condition, where we must seek information about our condition and then also keep others informed about our health and help others to understand how they can help us. So good social relationships are also very important. Without good communication skills, living with a long-term health condition can be even more difficult and problems can arise. So one skill we can learn that is particularly good in expressing our feelings and helping to resolve some of the problems that can be caused by poor communication is the use of what's called the I message, and by I mean I. So using the I message as opposed to you messages. So there's an important distinction to be made there between the two of those, and we hope we can explain that a little bit better now. So the I message allows us to express concerns or feelings such as anger or maybe frustration without actually blowing up or seeming to blame others or promoting a kind of a defensiveness in terms of our relationship with others. You messages tend to do those things, as well as potentially blocking any potential for further communication. So in addition, I messages are a good way of constructively, and it is that word, constructively expressing the anger that all of us will from time to time feel, and also fear. So these are really two important emotions that we need to attend to, particularly at this time, the kind of anger built up and also that sense of fear and how it impacts on our communication. So let's give you an example of both an I message, so an I message, and then a you message. And what we want you to do is to just maybe listen in, see what you can pick up in terms of distinguishing an I message and the impact that has, and a you message and the impact that that has. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little role play for you to listen in on. So this is one where the issue is around time and timekeeping. So just see if you can listen in here. So I'll start with partner 1.
Great.
Hurry up, you're always late.
Instead of picking on me, why can't you just slow down?
I just think if you were not so slow, we wouldn't always be going through this.
How dare you call me slow? You try dealing with what I have to.
Okay, so that's the first scenario, and I'm guessing you'll have picked up that that was very much going you. It was a you kind of communication. Let's just listen into a second one now and see what else you can pick up. It's time to go, and I'm concerned our friends will leave without us. Are you nearly ready?
I'm running late because my new medicines made me really tired.
I forgot you were on new medications. How can I help?
Could you call and tell our friends we're running late?
That's a really good idea. Maybe we can talk later too. Maybe if I understood more, it would be easier for both of us, and we could figure out ways to make things work better.
I'm worried too. I think talking more would be good.
Okay, so maybe just pause there for a second and just notice what differences were there in the two dialogues, the first one and the second one. So I'll just take a moment there to think about it. Okay, so I hope that that was helpful in illustrating I messages and you messages. The first one was very much, you're always late, you're the one who's keeping us late all the time. The second one was, if I understand a little bit more about how your new medications are impacting on you, then maybe that will be helpful. So it allowed more communication to happen. So the use of the I message allowed for their communication to reach a point where they were able to express the real problem without actually blaming each other. I messages made it possible to find a solution to the problem instead of leaving the other person with hurt feelings. You messages tend to have that kind of hint of more aggression or more hostility behind them, and putting the person who's on the receiving end of them more on a defensive point. And they also have this impact in terms of blocking the opportunity for further communications. And also, because they're blocking the communications, they're also blocking an opportunity to find a solution to the possible problems that are there. So sometimes using I messages can be difficult, especially at first. If this is the case, try a variation in which you state the problem and then how it makes you feel. So when you come home late, I worry, or when you won't hold me, I feel ugly and unattractive. These may seem like you messages, but really do differ because they state the fact or the situation and then what you feel about it. They are not aggressive and hostile and allow one to express one's feelings. So sometimes communication problems are harder to identify. It may not be what we say or how we say, but rather what is not said that is the problem. So listen carefully in the following conversation between two friends and decide if there is a problem, and if so, what is it? Okay, so. Hello, Fergal. I'm so sorry, but I can't go to lunch today with you. I'm just too tired.
That's okay. I know that your condition is often unpredictable. Is there anything I can do to help?
No, I just have to live with it. Nothing can be done.
Okay, then I'll say bye for now. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye. Okay, so that was a telephone mock-up between two people around the idea of meeting up for lunch. So is there a problem there? What did you notice? So I'm guessing what you picked up is what we would have picked up as well, and that is that if the participants do not, excuse me, instruction to tutor, pause. We were going well.
I'm going really well. Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to revisit that situation around a lunch appointment. This is a phone conversation between two people, and just listen in and see what you pick up from this version of it. Hello, Fergal. I'm so sorry, but I can't go to lunch with you today. I'm just too tired.
That's okay. I know that your condition is often unpredictable. Is there anything I can do to help?
I really appreciate your understanding. Any chance of you picking up a takeaway and coming here for lunch instead? I have to eat and I'd really like to meet up with you.
That's a good idea. I'd love to come over. What type of food would you like?
Oh, fish, chicken would be good for me. How about you?
Chicken sounds good. See you around noon.
Great. Okay, so very often family and friends want to offer help, and it's our job to tell them how we can actually help them or what help we need. So sometimes a breakdown in communication occurs when we don't say what we want or need, especially if it involves asking for help. And yeah, we all just don't like having to ask somebody else for help. But in this instance, there was something quite constructive that happened. So in the first example, the person with the health problem didn't let his friend know what he really wanted. Instead, he gave in to the tiredness that he really was feeling and gave up. And by telling his friend nothing could be done, shut down any opportunities for further conversation about it. In the second version that we listened to just there, the person opened up and they shared that they still wanted the person to come over and they still needed to eat and were looking for a solution around that. And the result obviously was a better outcome. So all of us have experienced communication problems at one time or another, and sometimes we are not clear about our wants and our needs. Other times the people around us don't understand us and therefore don't know how to approach or to offer help. It may appear that they don't care or that their attempts to help are inappropriate. Sometimes the subject we need to talk about is difficult to get started. So if we can learn to communicate more effectively, then perhaps we can avoid some of these particular problems. So we're going to look now at chart number 19, which gives us some suggestions to help with communications. So here we are, chart 19. So the first one is to identify. So to identify what's really bothering you and how you feel about it. This may not be easy and may take some honest thinking to achieve. So you might need to just take some time to think about that. So identify what's really bothering you. The second point is to express the way you're feeling and to, where you can, do that in a constructive way. And you can do that in two ways. So you can use a direct I message like we showed you a few minutes ago. For example, I feel I'm not being heard is better than you never listen to me. So when we start using I messages, we need to watch out for hidden you messages that have an I feel stuck in front of them, such as I feel frustrated when you act like a fool. These messages are also good to use to express positive emotions and feelings to others, which help to improve our relationships. And then the other variant of that is to use when this happens, I feel. So for example, when I'm not able to talk about my plans for future healthcare, I feel frightened that my wishes may not be carried out. For some, this way of expressing feelings might be easier than the more direct form. And then the third point that we're looking to here in terms of really helping with communication issues is to listen really attentively. So sometimes we are so anxious to respond to what the person is saying that we don't really or accurately hear what it is that they're saying to us. So try waiting a few seconds after the other person has finished before you actually respond. Just gives you a little bit of time to come up with what it is you really feel you want to say, having heard what the other person said. So good listening is another really important part of good communication. And then the fourth point here is to clarify. So repeat back what you think you heard using your own words, and then ask the person for clarification. So for example, it might be something like, something about discussing future plans for your healthcare is bothering you. Can you tell me what it is? So that's reflecting back what you've heard and checking in for accuracy. So these can be helpful techniques to use with partners, with friends, with colleagues, with GPs, and with your healthcare professionals. Communication is so important in terms of allowing us to get our message across without promoting defensiveness in other people and listening in for accuracy. So just to remind you that in terms of our toolbox, we have communication here, a really core part of our self-management toolbox that can help with so many
of our symptom cycle, particularly experiencing difficult emotions. Okay.
Okay, so activity 5, problem solving. So, I mean, having a long-term physical or mental health condition can present problems and challenges in our everyday life. These can range from not being able to socialise or keep up with family and friends, to maybe being embarrassed because we might need a walking stick or an oxygen tank. So what we're going to do in this section, and what I'd say to you at this point is, maybe just pause for a second, grab a pen and paper again if you haven't already got one, because it'll be really handy if you have it now during this section. So let's give you a chance to grab that. And we're going to have a practice chance now on our problem solving skills. So what we will do is, if we look at our chart over here, the first thing I'd like you to do with a problem solve is to first identify the problem you have experienced lately but haven't solved. Okay? Then we're going to free think some solutions. You can think it at home there. And then we're going to try and pick one of the best solutions and try it. So on our chart, in our problem solving steps, you can follow these kind of as you go along. We're really interested in the first 3 is what we're really looking at. So the first thing you do is identify the problem. That can be tricky enough in itself, just to identify what is the actual problem. So just think about that. What is the problem? What difficulty have you got at the moment? List some ideas. So like our free things, when we come up with some ideas about, just write them down. Write them down. What could I do? Then I suppose when you look at your ideas, select one, the one that kind of stands out to you, the one that kind of feels, yeah, most right. Then you implement that and assess the results. If it hasn't quite worked, go back to your list and put in one of the other ideas. Substitute that for another idea. If you find that you've kind of exhausted some of those ideas, you could always utilise other resources. So maybe you could look up some stuff online, you could ask other people to see if they will come up with some other ideas. And then the last point on problem solving is to accept that the problem may not be solvable now. So it may not be solvable now. So I suppose even that's a very relevant point in today with all the restrictions that are on us and things that we're not allowed to do and stuff like that. So there may be some problem we're trying to work on, but maybe trying to get out and visit people or something like that. That might just have to be held just for the moment, or we might think about other alternatives around all that. So you're going to have a few minutes there at home to try and think about your problem, if you've got one, and to write down some ideas around what you could do to solve it. So what I'd like to do is, maybe at this point to kind of show it up a little bit more, if I bring Shifra back in, if you wouldn't mind, Shifra. At the start there you had your action plan,
I did.
and there was a little bit of a problem along the way.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk us through that again in a problem solving way.
So my action plan for last week was to use step counter 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for 30 minutes in the evening time around 7 o'clock. And day 1, great, problem, yeah, no problems. Day 2, great. Day 3, I just felt really, really tired. And so in terms of looking at problem solving steps, I kind of identified the problem. Okay, I didn't think I'd be able to do it on day 3. List the ideas. So the ideas I had is just don't do it. But I kind of wanted to push a little bit. So I decided the other alternative would be to maybe rest on that 3rd day. And then maybe on the 4th day, go back and do a little bit more and spread that over 2 days. So identifying the problem was that on day 3, I just was too tired. And the listing of the ideas was either don't do any, give it up, try something or amend it, which is what I actually did do. So I took that rest on the 3rd day. Then on the 4th day, I did 15 minutes, which was less than the 30 the first day and the 2nd day. And then on the 5th day, I did another 15 minutes. So I still was able to just about wriggle it and get my action plan done. But I had to do some problem solving to identify some steps to allow me to do that.
Brilliant.
Right.
Thank you very much, Shifra. So that's a very nice example there of seeing that you hit the problem, you identified what it was, and then came up with ideas to try and solve it, and then try to use one and assess the results thereafter. So at home, try and think about that in that sort of a way again. If you've got a problem, write it down, write down some ideas how to solve it, pick one to try and use. It might be helpful if there's somebody else at home with you there that you could always ask them for their opinion on how you could solve a problem. Because we often find that if we help others solve a problem, we actually feel quite good ourselves in being able to do those. But what we would say about problem solving is, it is one of the tools in the self-management toolbox, and it's one of our most important tools that's in there. It's actually one that we use all the time when our action plans don't quite work, or you're probably using it all the time yourself with everyday activities or things like that. So it's a really important skill to kind of practice and think about. Because it actually enables us to use all the other skills and tools that we've learned in their most effective way. So that's really, it's a really lovely little tool because it kind of accompanies all the other tools in there. Really helps us out. It's a utility tool, that one. It's really good. So problem solving is from the toolbox, and again it will break into the symptom cycle at different points along the way. Okay, so I'll hand you back over to She for now. Thank you.
Okay, so we're coming towards the end of today in terms of this as being week 4 of Paths to Wellness, and we're going to look at developing some action plans that will carry us from us to the next session. So just to remind you that action plans allow us to achieve what we want to, or we decide to achieve, by breaking down the activity into smaller and more doable steps or tasks. And that's the whole idea, to help you to get something that you'd like to get done, achieved in the week. So what we'd like you to do is maybe to think about what your action plan is. I'm going to just go through the chart here and then maybe pause for a second, and you can think about what you'd like to achieve in your action plan, maybe incorporating some of the things that we looked at today in relation to communication, or in relation to problem solving, or in relation to better breathing, or something else that's important to you. So our chart here, parts of an action plan. An action plan is something you want to or decide to do. It needs to be achievable even within the constraints of COVID-19 within a week, okay? So it's action specific, it's something you actually do. And then it answers all of these questions. So what are you going to do? How much of it are you going to do? When are you going to do it? And how often or how frequently will you do it across the week? And we're looking always for a conference level of 7 or above. And if you can't get to that 7 or above, maybe you're actually going back here to problem solving and looking through these sections here, identifying the problem and selecting one to try and resolve to get that confidence level up a little bit more. So I'm going to ask Fergal to join us now and maybe tell us about your action plan for the week to come.
Thanks, Shifa. My action plan is going to be based on noticing the eating patterns that I had from last week. So I want to do something with my breakfast. So my action plan is to eat a healthy breakfast. So what I'm going to do with that is to ensure I have a healthy breakfast, is to have a banana with my breakfast every morning. So I'll have to make sure I buy bananas so that I have them in the house so that I can have them in the first place. So what am I going to do? I'm going to eat a banana with my breakfast every morning. How much? That's going to be a Monday to Friday.
Okay.
So it's going to be the work days for sure. When? Well, it'll be around 8 o'clock in the morning. And how often? It's 5 days. So I'm going to have a breakfast and I'm going to have a banana with my breakfast for 5 mornings, around 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday to Friday. And my confidence level with that one, yeah, it's an 8. Yes.
Well done. Okay.
Thanks a million.
So what we're going to do now is maybe just pause for a second. If you have a pen and paper with you, you might just write down using this the what, how often, what, how much, when, and how often, and your confidence level. And my action plan for this week, it combines 2 things. So on the days that I'm driving to work, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm going to deliberately turn off the radio in my car. I tend to have it on, so that all of the news, which is just too much at the moment, is actually not in the car with me while I'm driving to work. And what I'm going to do instead is on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm going to just engage in some really slow pursed lip breathing. So that's 4 days of the week. On my drive to work, I'm going to use pursed lip breathing for at least 10 to 15 minutes on each one of those journeys. And my confidence level on that is an 8. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that feels like.
best of luck with that. Hope it goes well.
Great. Okay, super. So hopefully now you've developed some ideas about what your action plan is going to be for the week to come. And remember that you always can use the problem solving steps if you're coming across an obstacle in trying to achieve your action plan. So as I said just there, we're coming towards the end of session 4 of Paths to Wellness in this new version that we're recording for you, and we hope you're enjoying. So just to close and summary for today, so just to remind you to look at the portion size of food labels, and maybe also to bring 1 or 2 food labels along to our session next week. So you might collect them during the week, just so that you can look at that colour traffic light system on those and really get a clearer sense of what the traffic light system is telling you about the food you've purchased. So you would maybe like to review what we've covered today, and you can use the course book for that. It's not something you have to read, but it might be something you flick through to look at maybe better breathing, maybe the Eat Well plate, maybe a review of what action plans are, or maybe even problem solving. So whatever is there, it's a backup resource for you too. Next week, what we're going to be looking at are nutrition. We're going to be looking at medication use. We're going to be talking about how you make informed decisions in terms of your treatment. And then we'll also be looking at the impact of low mood or depression, particularly when you're trying to manage a long-term health condition. And then we'll also be looking at an important part of our tool from the toolbox, which is the use of positive thinking. So keep track of your action plan during the week. Maybe even set a reminder on 1 or 2 of the days through your phone to just check in. How am I doing in my action plan? And we hope you have a good week, and we look forward to talking with you again soon for session 5. Take care.